Hello everybody and welcome back to the football betting series here on YouTube, UEFA edition. I just want to take a quick moment to recognise a goal that we've reached on the channel. That's 500 subscribers, and I would just like to thank everyone that has contributed to this total, and also leave a friendly reminder, if you haven't already, to subscribe to the channel. But enough of that, that's not what you're here for. You're here for our UEFA record, which after last week, when we went 3 out of 4, stands at 17 wins, 4 losses and 2 pushes, and a UEFA profit of £187.33. Adding that to our series records, and we're standing on 70 wins, 24 losses with 13 pushes, and an overall series profit of £483.51. Now, I've got 5 selections in today's episode from the Champions League, Europa League and Conference League. So if you think I'm talking some sense, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. Without further ado, let's get into it. We start things off in the Champions League as 23rd place Dinamo Zagreb play host to 20th place Celtic. And Dinamo, they were bested handedly by Borussia Dortmund in their last match. Goals from Bino Gittins, Bien Spiani and Guirassy capped off a very dominant display from the German side, which limited Dinamo to just 0.13 xG. This result did disrupt what had been a pretty good run of form for Dinamo. They were unbeaten in 3 matches heading into the Dortmund game. They host a Celtic side who were held to a draw in their last match against Club Brugge. Following a calamitous own goal by Cameron Carter-Vickers, Celtic did manage to level the scores through Maeda at the hour mark, and based on the numbers, perhaps draw was the fair result, but the nature of the own goal will disappoint Celtic and Celtic fans alike. In terms of form, Celtic are now unbeaten in their last 3 Champions League games, and they've put themselves in a really good position to earn a playoff spot. In terms of the head-to-head record, these sides last squared off in the 2014 version of the Europa League. Dinamo won 4-3 thanks to a young Marcelo Brozovic opening the scoring, before Piaka hit a hat-trick to put the game beyond the Scots. However, this win was not enough to stop Celtic qualifying ahead of Dinamo from the group. My prediction for this game is that I think that both sides have a great chance to win this game and take one step closer to the knockout round, and neither side's going to back down, so I think we're in for goals. Dinamo have seen over 2.5 goals in 4 of their 5 Champions League games, whereas the away side Celtic have seen over 2.5 goals in 3 of their 5 Champions League games. In terms of the head-to-head record, the last match saw over 2.5 goals, but that was the best part of a decade ago. But for all of these reasons, I'm going to take over 2.5 goals for a full stake in bet number 1. Our second selection sees 32nd place Red Bull Salzburg playing host to 25th place PSG. And Salzburg were given a real hiding by their German opposition in Bayer Leverkusen. Florian Wirtz opened the scoring from the penalty spot after just 8 minutes, and the pain continued from there. It was 3-0 by half-time, and the game finished 5-0. And looking at the numbers, the 5 goals was not a surprise at all. Leverkusen took 27 shots, created 7 big chances, and generated an XG of 4.56. In terms of form, things are looking pretty dire for Salzburg. 4 losses in their 5 matches in this campaign, and they really need to pull out a few upsets in order to reach the knockout round, which isn't looking very likely right now. They host a PSG side who lost their last match away to Bayern Munich by 1-0. Kim was the only goal scorer in the match, which was dominated by the Bavarians. Funnily enough, Bayern were the more dominant side in the first half when they played 11 men, compared to the second half where PSG were down to 10 following the sending off of Ousmane Dembele. So make of that what you will. In terms of form, the Bayern result means it's no win in 4 for the French champions, and they've lost 3 of these games. They're on the outside looking in when it comes to playoff spots, and a win is desperately needed here. In terms of the head-to-head records, these two sides have not faced off since the 2011-2012 UEFA Europa League group stage. PSG won the match in Paris by 3-1, before the Austrians returned serve by winning 2-0 in Salzburg. This result did see PSG crash out of the group stage in 3rd place. My prediction for this game is that PSG really do need to start picking up points, and this match against Salzburg represents the best chance they have left. Remaining games are against Manchester City and Stuttgart. They're going to have to play a strong attacking lineup to guarantee the result here, which really helps me to back them. Additionally, the sending off to Dembele I feel is a blessing in disguise. I personally feel that he spends a lot of time on the ball, and he can disrupt the flow of a PSG attack with his dribbling. I do fancy PSG to pick up a result on the road, so I'm going to back them for a full stake in the second bet of today's episode. Carrying on with the Champions League action, we have 26th place Shakhtar Donetsk playing host to 13th place Bayern Munich. And Shakhtar, they took a 2-goal lead away at PSV before a disaster of a collapse at the end of the game. A brace from Malik Tillman in just 3 minutes tied up the scores at 2-2, and then Pepe killed off the game with a winner in the 95th minute. And Shakhtar really did snatch defeat from the jaws of victory in that one, and that means their form is just 1 win in 5. They've lost 3 of the last 4, and the chances of securing a playoff spot are fading fast. They host a Bayern Munich side who beat PSG 1-0 in their last game. Following a fairly competitive first half, Kim made the breakthrough and the Bavarians controlled the match from there, limiting 10-men PSG to just 5 efforts, and none of which were on target in the second half. In terms of form, this does mean it's back-to-back wins for Bayern Munich in the Champions League, and they're all but guaranteed a playoff berth, and they're also only 1 point away from the prestigious top 8 spots. In terms of the head-to-head record, these sides last met in the round of 32 of the 2015 edition of the Champions League. A goalless draw in Ukraine really spurred Bayern Munich into life as they handed Shakhtar a 7-0 battering in Bavaria. There were 6 different goal scorers on that night, which popped up with a contribution, and there are some real names here. Thomas Müller scored twice, but also Jerome Boateng, Frank Ribery, Holger Bastuber, Robert Lewandowski, and Mario Götze all got in on the action. It was a lovely reminder to see what a spectacular side that Bayern Munich assembled around a decade ago. My prediction for this game is that it's time for Bayern Munich to strap in. They do need some points to guarantee a playoff spot and really push on to that bye which the top 8 spot gives you. I'm going to back Bayern Munich to win for a full stake in bet number 3. Moving on to the Europa League now, we have 17th place Bodo Glimt playing host to 22nd place Besiktas. And Bodo, they fell behind in the first minute against Manchester United in their last match, Garnacho getting the Reds off to a brilliant start. However, 2 goals in 4 minutes saw the tables turned as the Norwegians took the lead in the 23rd minute. This did scare Manchester United back into life as they levelled just before half-time and then took the lead with both goals contributions coming from Rasmus Højlund, the game finishing 3-2 to Manchester United. In terms of form, this does mean it's back-to-back losses in the Europa League for Bodo Glimt. Their record is very competitive and mixed, with 2 wins, 1 draw and 2 defeats. They host a Besiktas side who lost 3-1 in their last match against Maccabi Tel Aviv. After falling behind thanks to Kanakovsky's strike, Rafa Silva did level the scores up, but they would only remain that way for about 10 minutes before Tel Aviv took the lead at the stroke of half-time, adding a third in the 80th minute to end the game as a contest. Numbers-wise, this was a really fun game for the neutrals. Both sides combined for 30 efforts and generated a combined XG of 4.79. In terms of form, this loss did break a brief 2-game winning streak for the Turks. They have now lost 3 of their 5 Europa League matches. In terms of the head-to-head record, it's not been very long since these sides last met. They faced each other in the group stage of last year's UEFA Conference League. Bodo dominated the contest, picking up a 3-1 win at home before going away to Turkey and winning 2-1. And these 6 points were the difference as Besiktas were sent packing as the Norwegian side joined Club Brugge in the knockout round. My prediction for this game is that both sides play some entertaining and very watchable football, and this has inevitably led to goals. Bodo Glimt have seen over 2.5 goals in 4 of their last 5 matches, and in both of their home games to this point in the competition, whereas Besiktas, they've seen over 2.5 goals in 4 of their 5 Europa League games. In terms of the head-to-head record, both games last year saw over 2.5 goals, with an average of 4 goal contributions per 90. Therefore, I'm going to back over 2.5 goals for a full stake in bet number 4. Our 5th and final game of today's episode takes place in the Conference League, as 23rd place Astana play host to top of the table Chelsea. And Astana managed to hold on to a draw against Vitoria in their last match. Kalisia put the Kazakhs ahead after 40 minutes, and they sat back and tried to hold on for as much as they could. The bend and break strategy really almost worked for them. After facing 34 efforts in the 89th minute, Ramirez managed to find the breakthrough for Vitoria, the scores finishing 1-1 in a game when we look at the numbers, Astana were well and truly beaten. In terms of form, this draw saw Astana break a brief 2-game losing streak, although they are winless in their last 3. They're going to need to pick up some more points if they're to have any hope in securing a playoff spot. They host a Chelsea side who beat Heidenheim by 2-0 in Germany. Goal contributions from Nkunku and Mudryk sealed the deal for the Blues, but it was not as straightforward as the scoreline would suggest. Chelsea gave up 16 efforts with 2 big chances and an XG of 1.97, something which Maresca will hope to improve on in this match. Nevertheless, this result did maintain Chelsea's perfect record, 4 wins from 4 with 18 goals scored. That's very impressive, and it's 7 more ahead of second place Legia Warsaw and an average of 4.5 goals per game. There's no head-to-head record to go on for these two, so straight on to the prediction. And ordinarily, this is the type of game that I would stay away from, as Chelsea being a much bigger and more dominant side, there's a lot of risk of rotation and complacency coming into this match. However, the nature of Chelsea's squad is that it is very deep. They field a strong level of players in this competition with something to prove. Okay, so we're probably not going to get a lineup involving Cole Palmer strolling around the pitch like prime Zidane, but instead we're probably going to look at a couple of good rotation players. Adarabioyo, Renato Veiga, Mudryk, Keelan Dewsbury-Hall, and Christopher Nkunku are all looking to take their frustration out on an Astana side in the hopes of breaking into the Chelsea first 11 of the Premier League. With all that in mind, I'm going to back Chelsea to win for a full stake in the final bet of today's episode. So there we have it, 5 picks in today's episode, starting off with Dinamo versus Celtic. We're taking over 2.5 goals, odds of 1.72, a £40 stake to return 28.80. Next up, for Red Bull Salzburg versus PSG, we're backing the away side, odds of around 1.4, £40 to return 16. Wrapping up the Champions League, Shakhtar play host to Bayern Munich. Bayern are currently sitting at 1.15, so a £40 stake will return 6. But I think as the game approaches, those odds will lengthen out a little bit and get closer to 1.25 or even 1.3 just ahead of kickoff. If you feel uncomfortable taking them to win at such a short price, then simply do not take the bet. Moving on to the Thursday night, Bodo versus Besiktas. We're taking over 2.5 goals. I'm expecting the odds to be around about 1.4, a £40 stake to return 16. And wrapping up the episode with a UEFA Conference League pick, Astana versus Chelsea. We're backing Chelsea at odds of around 1.3, a £40 stake to return 12. So across the midweek, we're going to be risking £200 to hopefully pick up as much as £78.80. Will we do so? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to tune into the next episode. But if you have made it to this point in the video, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. And as always, have yourself a lovely day.